Hello and welcome to High Vibe Astrology. This is Jennifer, back with a segment on the November 27th Gemini full moon, occurring at 4 degrees and 51 minutes. If you're new, I just want to let you know that I interpret lunation charts as event charts drawn up from my location, trusting the microcosm-macrocosm relationship to guide you as you trust your own intuition. I've been feeling the emotional intensity of this full moon for a while now, presenting to me old patterns of grief that I thought I had resolved. Of course, we're never completely done with certain patterns because the way we evolve is in a spiral pattern, and we can either spiral up or down. We can progress or regress. There's always a little bit of both going on, but as we consciously work with these energies and direct them upward, direct them towards our progress, it doesn't mean that we're exempt from feeling the negative side of these emotions. It just means that we've put ourselves, most of the empaths on this planet and light workers have agreed to be an anchor of light and healing for the planet, to be the alchemists and to tap into what is going on in the collective. But first, we also have to do a lot of the inner work to transmute our own negative patterns and energies in our own lives and on our journey. So if we're not aware of what's happening, we can easily spiral down and feel pulled under. The trick is to remember that this is something that will pass, and the intensity of this full moon is the conversation between not just the sun and moon representing that full moon, but also the conjunction of Mars to the sun in the sign of Sagittarius, opposite the Gemini moon conjunct Sedna, now at 29 degrees of Taurus. So this dialogue has, for me, stirred up some of that deep grief represented by the moon conjunct Sedna in the 8th house, as well as what pertains to the collective's ancient story around abandonment, betrayal, and suffering. Sedna always asks us to feel so that we can heal, and so that we can also then transcend. Rather than staying stuck in the past, her energy is about leaving the past behind in order to rewrite our future by staying ever so present in the moment and being present with the emotions we're experiencing so that we can not stuff them, repress them, suppress them, ignore them, but actually allow them to arise so that they can be cleared out and heal. As we do this work on ourselves, we automatically have that healing energy ripple out into the collective. So Sedna's connection to the ocean represents the human emotions, the body of emotions that do connect us to all life on this planet and even beyond this planet to the cosmos. Water also has long been a symbol of rebirth. Along with that, however, we have the T-square from Saturn to these two polarities. Saturn is splitting these two energies, creating that T-square. And its energy tends to restrict movement. It makes us feel like someone is slamming on the brakes when we're trying to drive at 90 or 100 miles per hour. So it causes us to feel stymied, stifled, stopped in our tracks. And this is very frustrating at the least, but it can also make us feel like nothing's ever going to change. Like every time we try to move forward with something that we are inspired by, represented by the Mars-Sun conjunction in Sagittarius, we are met with a brick wall. The illusion is that the spiral I mentioned earlier is one-dimensional, and that we just keep going round and round on a hamster wheel or merry-go-round, whatever you want to call it. We just keep going round and round over the same issues again and again. But we have to remember that we are always evolving into higher states of consciousness, and it is our choice whether or not we spiral up or down. I mean, inevitably, we're going to do a little bit of both, but where we direct our focus and perception or perspective is what will win out in the end. So the more conscious our choices become, the more quickly we can lift ourselves out of that depressive state. Now, additionally, we have a trine from Pluto to that moon conjunct Sedna, and this intensifies the scorpionic feelings, the intense emotional feelings of betrayal, abandonment, and it emphasizes the hidden nature of the eighth house experience or mysteries. But the eighth house experience is inevitably a loss of some sort. It's something that we have to surrender in order to experience the rebirth and rebuild process. And it's also surrendering to the fact that we simply don't have all of the answers or all of the facts just yet. We need to accept that the eighth house is hidden, and there's always going to be a larger body of the iceberg that we haven't yet explored. I mean, our lives really represent the tip of the iceberg. So it's not our entire life, though. That's what we have to remember. And it doesn't have to stop us from asking the questions or to take things at face value. The moon in Gemini wants to ask questions, and in the eighth house, it is definitely curious about the hidden mysteries. What am I not seeing? So it is about not taking things at face value, but being willing to ask those questions and to understand that we simply do not have all of the facts just yet. When we find ourselves on the dark side of the moon, as we can feel during full moons, and certainly during this one, like I have, it helps to remember that the grief we're feeling is that part of us that has never seen the light of day, or that has never felt seen, unconditionally accepted, that's never felt heard or appreciated. That is the very definition of shadow. The shadow isn't always a monster trying to attack or destroy us. The shadow exists so that we can explore more of who we truly are. One of the most important books of my lifetime was Make Friends with Your Shadow by William A. Miller, reminding us that there is undiscovered gold in mining the gold of the subconscious. And the gold of our authentic being can bring us great happiness that comes from allowing a truer expression of certain parts of our expression that in childhood we were conditioned to believe were unacceptable. So the shadow isn't always a bad thing. It offers many, many gifts, creative gifts, and it's up to us to be brave enough to explore the inner realm of the shadow. Our unconscious, subconscious mind is the majority of our consciousness. Conscious mind is just the tip of the giant iceberg. The deeper we dive, the more we learn. And the more we learn, the more we feel. The more we feel, the more we heal, because we have greater access to the whole picture of who we truly are and how we fit into the greater whole represented by the ocean of consciousness. Anytime that happens, we are creating more space from our own drama, and we are also allowing that healing to ripple out into the collective. So with this Gemini full moon in the 8th house, we are discovering information that is coming out of the depths of what's been hidden, not only in our own lives, but in greater humanity. The moon conjunct Sedna in the 8th house is shining a light on our belief systems, represented by the Sagittarius sun, as well as its conjunction to Mars. And that conjunction to Mars symbolically suggests that we've allowed our ego or identity to become overly attached to certain beliefs that we've held on to and really become attached to. And these beliefs are now coming into question with this inquisitive and illuminative Gemini full moon. Now, Mercury rules this Gemini full moon, and we find it at 24 degrees of Sagittarius, forming a tight square with Neptune at 24 degrees of Pisces. So on the low vibe side, this square can manifest as exaggerating the truth, or a mind clouded by its own dogmatic attachment to a certain set of beliefs, and that takes on an unhealthy attitude. I have all the answers, I'm right, and you're wrong. But the high vibe of this square would be the dissolution of this rigidity, the dissolution of ego, of the ego's attachment to a certain philosophy or dogma, and allowing more fluidity when it comes to beliefs, philosophy, and religion that is able to adopt a more universal, otherworldly, or multidimensional perspective. So those are the main points that I wanted to share with you. I also want to mention that we have 5 planetary bodies that are still retrograde. And those planets, by the way, are Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus, Chiron, and Sedna. On December 6th, Neptune will station direct. December 27th, Chiron stations direct. December 30th, Jupiter stations direct. And then on January 27th, in the new year, Uranus stations direct, and February 12th, Sedna stations direct. While these planets are still retrograde, it is another energy emphasizing the need to go within, the need to examine our own feelings, thought patterns, attachments, so that when the planetary bodies station direct, we've done enough of the inner work to be able to express them in a healthier way. So with Neptune retrograde in Pisces, we're revisiting our dreams, our soul's longing, and what is it that we truly need to fulfill our soul's longing. With Chiron retrograde in Aries, we are revisiting wounds around our identity, our independent nature, so that we can move forward with that when Chiron stations direct. And this is impacting the United States chart too, because the United States is going through its own Chiron return. But definitely in 2024, the United States is going to be moving forward with the outward healing of our identity. With Jupiter retrograde in the sign of Taurus, we're dealing with issues of abundance. And what besides money really constitutes a feeling of abundance within us? Because Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Pisces, so it still has to do with the soul, with our beliefs, what really feeds and nurtures our soul. And it has a lot to do with values, self-esteem, and self-worth. So again, another way to ask that is, what really constitutes our self-worth? Is it money alone, or is it something more than that? With Uranus retrograde in the sign of Taurus, we are dealing with issues of freedom and independence with regard to economy, values, self-esteem, and self-worth. With Sedna having gone retrograde in Gemini and now at 29 degrees of Taurus, this is the full expression of the Taurus nature. Sedna is calling us to rewrite a future that allows for us to live in harmony with the planet, to bring in peace, prosperity, and a new perspective on our own self-worth that has a more fluid relationship with abundance, so that we are not being so possessive of acquiring material things, but that we can acknowledge that we are stewards, and that when we are properly exercising stewardship of our possessions, our abundance is continuously replenished. So I hope that you've enjoyed this introduction. Please do stay tuned for the affirmations and frequencies, and I look forward to being with you again at the Sagittarius new moon. Bye for now. Sun, full moon, and Mercury for the Gemini full moon. My capacity for universal truth can only be matched by my capacity for personal honesty. Sun, full moon, and Mars for the opposition. I release unhealthy identity attachments that provide a false sense of security, so that I may gain a deeper and more expanded comprehension of life and my place within it. Sun, full moon, and Saturn for the T-square. Any restrictions that slow me down are simply there to refine my perspectives and distill life's experiences for higher wisdom and greater truth. Mars, Sedna, and Saturn for the T-square. My identity, ambition, and drive are gifts that I am committed to using in ways that serve the greater good. Full moon, Sedna, and Pluto for the trine. I can allow myself to feel as an empath without identifying as a victim. Stories from Earth's ancient past, as well as my own, only have the power that I assign to them. I choose to create a new story for myself and my world. Sun, full moon, and Sedna for the conjunction and opposition. With each sunrise and sunset, new moon and full moon, the underlying theme is that of change. When my own beliefs resist change, the result is stagnation. I renew my life and the world around me by trusting the changes already underway. Mercury and Neptune for the square. Our greatest gift is not the ability to think, it's our ability to imagine.